please introduce yourself and share a little bit about, how you came to your current perception?
Okay, sure.
Because I've heard you speak
My
before,
name's
there's insights there, and I'd be very curious to understand how those insights came about.
okay. My name's Samson. Also known as Mr. Grateful, also known as Bula Bula. Um, I'm interested in all things shamanic, soothsaying, uh, occultism, esoteric, um, and how they've played out in different layers of culture, different levels of cultures.
But
Um,
was this something that you were aware of as a kid, or it developed later on? It suddenly became real later on, or were you like this from a kid, like from the beginning?
from a child, I've always been very much um, tuned into nature, I would say, and
Oh.
tuned into, I guess, different realities. Um, just from, I guess, growing up in a very chaotic sort of environment. Like, probably over my life, I've like moved that like countless times. And so I've had to, experience new peoples, new cultures, new towns, um, all over Australia, from Fiji, um, and that thing. But my spirituality, I guess, is like always been an innate aspect of myself, and something I didn't realize was so important until, I guess, the last 5 years or so. Hmm.
So you see, like I've seen people, some people I've asked, like, why do you care about spirituality? The person likes power. They're inspired by the fiction of it, right? Some
Hmm.
people just want peace, or some people want to get close to God. And so it seems to me like we're these beings that are finding reasons to express our abilities, you know?
Hmm.
So I guess I'm kind of thinking like, at what point did you notice, like at what point did reality change? Do you know what I'm saying? At what point did you suddenly notice, okay, there's something maybe more than just the body here, or more than this, or did you have an experience?
Yeah,
Or did somebody
yeah,
enter your
sure.
life?
So
Sometimes it's like that.
I was much into, because my parents were both Presbyterian Christians,
Sorry, can you say
using
that again?
like, so they're both like church ministers in the Christian church.
Oh, okay.
That's
Oh,
that's how they
okay.
met. Um,
So you were
and
raised
so
in the
like
church.
what really, yeah, I was raised in sort of like a church environment, but it's a little bit different. Like, church environment in Fiji is different from the church environment in the West. There's still a lot of this culture of like, you know, warding off evil spirits and um miraculous healing powers and that type of thing. And so when I was like very young, very little, there was moments where like I displayed some of these sort of like interesting characteristics, I would say, or like, and there's stories about me doing like some weird things, but then I
Mm.
kind of forgot about that as I grew older. One of the other things that I always loved doing when I was a child was like when I was racing or when I was playing games or whatever, I would always like invoke different animal spirits. Like, I would imagine that I would become one with these animals, and they would like, their spirits would like lend me their powers for like either like, running, or like playing hide and seek, or just doing different things. I always loved like that type of thing. I don't know where it came from. And looking back at it, it's a very, um, I guess, shamanic sort of style of thing to do,
Right.
is invoking different consciousnesses. Um, and it's just something I naturally did when I was younger, and I really loved doing that.
You know what's
I don't.
fascinating? You know, I
Mm,
I sometimes have this view that like the experiences we go earlier in life are like kind of foreshadowing who we will become, you know?
yes.
Like,
Yeah.
for example, my father, he was someone who in Iran, it's like a theocratical place, he would go and give underground talks, like on
Mm,
ideas of like spirituality. What does it mean to be present? What does it mean, to consider time in your experience, right? And I was a little
yeah.
kid at the time, but then years later, that thing became real to me suddenly, right? And then I started giving my own talks and all of this, right? So it was kind of like I felt like it was as if it was an archetype. It was, do you know what I'm saying? Is this making sense? Like,
Yeah. So like the archetype, like, so my family in Fiji, like my Fijian family, they've got a long history uh of doing really sort of like spiritual work and preaching type of thing.
mm,
So back before Christianity, my tribe and my grandfathers, um, they were a type of like like a type of priest and miracles. And so their main role was like, as very like back in the day, being a fisherman tribe, or it's like a special role that you get. And so my grandfather was like the head of this fisherman tribe, and he started this village on the island, and communed with like the land spirits and the spirits of water,
wow.
for the good of the community. Then when Christianity came out, my great I think great grandfather, um, he taught himself English, um, and then started go missionary. He taught himself English, learned Christianity, and started converting a lot of Fiji. And his younger brother was, um, said to have been
Oh,
able to
wow.
like read and like navigate by the stars and all of these things like just intuitively. So he always knew where he was, like at any point in time, like like navigating and
Yeah,
communicating with the
yeah.
stars. My great grandfather, he was known to have like, special powers, like, and there's a lot of stories about him. Um, and then it gets down
Right.
to like my grandfather. My grandfather was like the first one. He like worked in the government. He set up a resort on like some of our land. And so there's been a resort over there in Fiji since like 1980 something, but it's a little bit cursed. But and my father was a preacher, um, and to this day he's still a Christian preacher, even though I really disagree with a lot of the concepts in
Mhm.
Christianity. Um,
So that's
but yeah, ever since
now, can I make a comment on what you
yeah,
said? Right?
yeah,
This thing you're saying, like your grandfather had like abilities or something.
yeah,
I think there's something universal to this. Okay. Like my grandmother, right? She has okay, so I'll tell you this. There's this bizarre story in my family of my grandmother's father. Okay. A very religious man. Everybody in the neighborhood loved him, respected him. And then one day he suddenly gets a vision or something, like after he's a very Muslim Islamic man. He gets a vision and he
mm,
says, God's giving me a gift early. God's giving me my gift early. They would say
mm,
like giving me my New Year gift early. And everybody was like, what is he saying? What does that even mean? Right. And then one day he just dresses up. He wakes up in the morning, completely dresses up, goes and meets everybody, talks to everybody, gets these pastries, do you know, comes home,
mm,
puts the pastries on the table, hugs and kisses everybody, right? And everybody's like, yo, it's just grandpa being grandpa. And my mother was very young. She was like 7, 8, like very young, right? And
Mm.
she saw this, right? She saw this with her own eyes. She saw her grandfather literally say bye to everybody, go lie down on the bed, and then he just shook a little bit and it was done. He was gone. Do you know?
Yeah.
It was as if, do you know what I'm saying? It feels like they had an off, there was a permission for those generations that maybe now it's kind of like feels like it's going. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah,
like,
I feel like just the current um system that, like in the Western model of reality,
mhm,
um nature isn't alive. Nature is just a resource to be consumed.
right.
Whereas from my perspective, nature's full of life, full of wisdom, full of intelligence, personality, and it has a consciousness. But there's you have to train yourself to learn how to listen, and listening's not always done with the ears. Um, and I think like back then there was like there's so much less stimuli that it was more easy for like people of those previous generations to naturally sort of like tap in. And some people are more sensitive, naturally more sensitive,
Mhm.
like your grandfather, and he's probably just like tapped into the world.
Yeah, yeah. There's
And
there's
yeah,
many stories like in Iran like that, right? Even
yeah.
when like there was this woman who was very like religious, she would pray, and then in the middle of her prayer, she dies, you know? And it was
Mm,
like, people were like, okay, that's like the best. You know what I'm saying? Like from an Islamic context, they were like, okay, that's like some divinity or something, you know?
yeah, that's straight up prophet stuff.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you're prostrating in front of like the ultimate. Imagine you've been praying every day, and then one day you're praying, and then you see it. You know what I'm saying? I think
Mm,
that's so next level,
mm.
right?
That is pretty next level.
Yeah.
My best friend's dad, his name was John Logan. Great man. He taught me a lot about the world and how to be a man. And he was 78, I think.
So what age were you when this guy's, reality
Uh,
helped you?
yeah, so I was probably 26, 27. So about 8, 9 years ago now. And what happened, Alan was telling, is his son Alan was telling me the story. So John woke up like at 5:30 in the morning, called out to Alan to come into the room because his dad was like a little bit sick, but he calls out to Alan. He's like, Alan, get here now. Alan goes to the room. He's like, hey, what's up, Dad? Is that everything okay? Do you need some water or something? He's like, it's time, son. It's time. And he's like, I love you. I wish you the best of luck in life. Yeah, I've taught you as much as I can, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you, you know, next time. And then he
Wow.
like passes away.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Um, and I don't, yeah, like,
That's cool. That's like someone in the know. You've heard that
yeah,
they say in the know, but not in the know of like human knowledge, in the know of like what's actually going on, you know?
yeah,
Like to me, it feels like 100% that person seeing something beyond this life that they have a certainty. Okay.
yeah,
Like they know where they're going. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
see, there was this bizarre
um,
scene. I'll just make a note of this, man. I don't know if you've seen, I mean, probably shouldn't talk about this, but there in Demon Slayer, this anime, okay, there was a
love
scene,
Demon Slayer. Yeah,
right? So I don't know if you've seen that show where they're on the train, right? And at the end, there's like this fire, I forget the name, the fire guy, right?
yeah.
And he's literally like going next level fighting. And the moment he dies, he sees his mother behind the guy he's fighting.
Mm,
I don't know if
mm,
you know what I'm saying? It's like he suddenly notices, okay, something transcendental is staying. It's not just the mind. Do you know?
yeah,
So I feel like that's where that certainty comes from. They're suddenly seeing something like a transcendental variable that is not changing. So then they know. you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just my view. Yeah, so let me ask you this. Um, during out this whole so you were saying this guy entered your life, and actually you should go on. Tell me about that. So this guy entered your life, and what happened?
Oh yeah, so we were just talking about the whole like people just being tapped in, and
Oh, okay.
I
That's
just
all.
felt like I was very suitable with that. But if we were to go back to like my family's history,
Mhm.
there's a big history of them having special like abilities type of stuff, and this reality of like these special abilities has turned up in my life like just like over random times, and I always just think it's like, oh, I'm just tripping, like
Okay,
I'm
okay.
just tripping out,
So,
like
so,
these things are happening.
so can I ask you a question here? Because the whole thing is about your experience of imagination. So, how would you differentiate between imagination, magic, and divinity? Do you know what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
and and I'm asking this as if as you're living in this lifetime, like as like if your life was a movie, like how did yeah.
Yeah.
Questions aren't finding me well.
Well, my first experience of it was there was we were in this little town in Fiji. It's called Navua. It's the second town on. It's like the first major town on the way to the main city of Suva from Nandi. So you got Nandi town, you've got Navua, and then you've got Suva. And we were at church and we were going on this drive, like walking through Navua, to convert people to Christianity.
Oh.
And there was a few people there walking with us, and along the path, I seen this old Indian woman, and she had a chicken, and her chicken was dead, right? And I've walked up to the woman, and I said, and she was a Hindu, and I said, if you convert from like if I can bring this chicken back to life, like you have to convert from Hinduism to Christianity, right?
Mhm.
And she said, okay. And I was about
Were you
six
went,
or
sorry,
seven
how
at
old
the
were
time.
you then?
About 6 or 7 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
And so she said yes. So what happened was like I just envisioned, like I envisioned that like the sun, the power of the sun was like flowing through me and it was bringing this chicken back to life. Right. And I don't know why I did that. I don't even know why like this whole scenario played out. I was just rolling with it because like that's what I thought everyone did.
So what
But
happened?
what happened was the chicken came back to life.
Wow.
And there's still stories today about like from
So she
people in Navua.
converted? Like, how was her reaction? What, like, did you see her face? Like, can you explain to me, like, what her face was like?
Her
Do you know?
face was in shock, and she had like paint like these pictures, these paintings of Shiva
Hmm.
and Ganesh and Hanuman.
Right.
And she got them and she threw them out. And then from that day forward, she started coming to church every Sunday at Navua.
Okay.
Um,
That's like, was that every Sunday? I'm joking.
yeah, like
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I got goosebumps there. So,
and then
so this was
yeah.
all nature. Like in your experience, it was like you were feeling it's like the power of nature, or was it the power of God, or
Yeah, I
was it
just
the
felt
power
like
of
this.
Christ,
I felt like
or the
this was like
Holy
natural.
Spirit,
It
or
was just
like
like a
something like that?
natural thing to do. I just felt like like the sun's powers of light, like just filled my whole body. Like, so, when you close your eyes, like you kind of like see blankness and then like you can get a mental image of something. But I
Yeah.
just imagined that my whole body turned into light and the light passed through my hands to bring this chicken back to life.
Wow. You know, I there was a time where I thought like if there isn't a lot of people, sometimes maybe the moment has an authorization to, happen in a different way. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like
Yeah.
eyes of the beings that are there. If it's meant to, like, sometimes I feel if it's meant to be seen, then it happens, you know.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. So magic, I get the sense that people are working with like other beings, right? Like as if they're evoking like spirits or summoning something
There's
or so that to me, see, so I'm trying to understand, like I
mm,
like how the someone who's Christian and there's the Holy Spirit, how it suddenly went to magic, right? Because religion has this view that knowing too much about the spirit or something, not knowing too much, but like, blasphemy, right? So
yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? So how was um isn't magic blasphemy from a Christian view?
Well,
Or what changed? Like
well,
how did your view on magic change, let's say?
well, from that experience, I didn't know what it was magic. I thought that was just like normal shit that people did.
Yo, man. Everybody's gonna bring
Like,
their chickens to you, like, yo, man.
yeah, like I just thought that was like the shit that people did. Like I didn't think like it was abnormal or like different. And like I was really on that wave, man. I was really on that wave because like when I came to Australia, it was like the next year, and I was at this like little it was like I was like at this church, and the church had a kindergarten, and I was going to kindergarten there, and there was this one kid, and he was like really, really bad. Like he was like so naughty, and like his behavior was crazy. Like he was violent, like all of these things. And I don't know what came over, but I walked up to him and like I used my hand like a knife, and I was like, I cut the head off all of these demons. Boom. And then I just like placed my hand like right on his chest near his neck. And then after that, kid was good. Like he was one
Yeah.
of the best kids there. And when I was 17 or 18, I met the kindergarten teachers again, and they told me about that story
Wow.
again. And they're like, after that day, and they're like in their 50s now, and they're like, yeah, after that day, he was like the best kid. Like before that, he was crazy.
You
Like,
know, in so you know me, right? Like my story is like the Islamic, like from like I was raised in an
mm,
Islamic situation. There wasn't that much like, they don't have like a miracle ceremonies. It's more like people just
yeah.
go sit there quietly and just like, everybody's silently praying, and then at the end of the prayer they all like talk, right? Something like
Mm,
that. But I've seen videos of people like, casting out demons. For some time I was thinking like, are they casting out demons, or are they bringing the attention of the person to reality? Do you know what I'm saying?
mm,
Do you know what I'm saying? It's
yeah.
it's like, are you waking them up or are you casting out the demon? Do you see what I'm saying? Like sometimes I think,
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, I didn't really know. Like, I didn't really know like how that all works. I think it's all just based on like faith. Faith is like a type of energy too. Um, and I think faith is the basis for magic to work. Um, and not faith as in like some faith in a divinity or something like that. It's more like it's like just like an undeniable reality that is willed into existence.
right, like instantaneous
Uh,
knowing, right? Like in that situation, you just knew what to do. Maybe it wasn't logical, maybe it
yeah,
was rational. It was just something, just like a bird knows, like you see, like baby deer, they already know how to run. It's
exactly.
something they
Yeah,
know. So
yeah,
so I'm getting the sense that for you it was like there was a Christian context, but then you saw that
mm,
Christian context in a nature's context, right? And
yes,
from the nature, then you got introduced to more of the magic. Is it like that? Is it like,
yeah. Well, what happened was like I went through after that time. Like my childhood was very, very rough. Um,
yeah,
like my mum had mental health issues and all these things. And there was many times we were homeless. And when you're going through that, you're just in survival mode. You know, you just it the magic sort of like chain goes away because you don't know what the fuck's going on. But what happened was I, like, at 19, 20, 21, I was going through a very, very bad period of my life. I would say, like, very unhealthy. I just didn't have any healthy coping mechanisms. And then I went to Fiji for a year, and I just lived in the mountains and like in a village and stuff like that, and just lived like a natural lifestyle. Like, there's no radio.
With nobody
You
or with somebody?
With like my grandfather and my
Oh,
grandmother.
wow. Wow.
And like there you're like in the mountains. You like We lived on the top of a mountain, and like to get water, to have drinking water, I had to like walk down about 800 meters, like down this like mountain into this freshwater creek, and have to fill up these two big buckets of water and then carry them all the way back up to the house again. And so I'd do that. And then you're just like planting, um planting all your vegetables. And the main diet is like mainly vegetables and flour, and like making pancakes and stuff like that.
Right, right.
But yeah, fruit and veggies was our main staple, and I was just like living this harmonious lifestyle like that. And then there was like something really impacted me, because like in Australia I was having such a tough time, but then like going back to the basics again, and living like in this just full nature environment. um my cousin was also living there at the time as well, and there was a cyclone on, like a hurricane.
Mhm.
And his job, right, he would ride 20 kilometers a day to get to work, right? Like so he would ride 20
Right,
kilometers a
from the
day
mountains.
to get to work, and then to get to Suva. And then the job was to smash concrete with a pick, like not even, you know, like one of those electronic
Yeah,
like
drills.
jackhammers or
Yeah.
anything. No, it was with a pick for 70 cents an hour,
Wow.
right? And there was a massive cyclone on, and he just had his like first child, um, my Yada. So his name was Peter as well. Yada means namesake. So in Fijian, like having a namesake is like having another parent, is like a special relationship you have with your namesake.
Mhm.
And namesake is just someone else you've got the same name to, and we call them a Yada.
Wow.
And
Like Godfather
so
kind
he,
of, right?
yeah, like Godfather. So it'd be like, say you've got your best friend, and they decided to name their child after you, so that would be a namesake. But
Oh, okay.
in Fiji, if that happens, then you're also like another father, another parent to that child. As
So,
that's the responsibility that comes with it. Yeah.
okay, you know what I was thinking about?
Mm,
When I was young, I think maybe like 12, our family like drove hours, went to this place in Iran, like outside of the capital called Shoman, right?
mm,
And there was this guy who was my grandfather's friend, like close friend. And one
mm.
time, it's like, it's like everybody's, it's like a gathering, like a cottage gathering, different families and all that, right? So this guy, once he tells me, he just calls me. I remember this memory. He calls me and he's like, "Yo, come here." I'll never forget
Yeah.
this. He puts his hand on a log, on this log, like this tree that had fallen, like a chunk of it. He puts his hand on the log, and a lizard comes and stands on his hand. And he comes and shows me the lizard. Do you know? And
That's
I
crazy
was
cool, isn't
I
it?
was the only one who saw that. I don't know why he called me. I don't like I'll never
Yeah.
understand it, but it was as if, do you know what I'm saying? I think for a second he felt I could acknowledge it. Do you know?
Yeah.
And that was like at the time I didn't care. I was like, "Yo, cool." And I went and played with my brother, but years later I was like, "What like what
The
happened?" You know what I'm saying? You
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had some sort of thing
That's a
where,
really good story.
late years later, I found this term for it, like a druid. Have you heard this thing?
Yeah. I love learning
nature.
about Druidry. Yeah,
If you know about that, please tell me because I just know a little bit.
yeah. So I'll just finish up my story and then we'll talk about
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Druidry.
Go on.
Yeah. So he was smashing concrete, and then this massive cyclone came. Like it was huge. It was like 200 and something kilometer winds, and he got up and he rode his bicycle to work to see if like there was work on that day, so he could feed his family, right? And that really impacted me. I was like, if he can ride this far,
Mhm.
like if he can do this, right, to live and survive and provide for his family, then I can make something happen in Australia.
Right. Right.
So I came back. Yeah, I came back to Australia, and I got a job um, in the health industry. Worked at the gym for a couple of years, and then I got a job in a non-for-profit organization.
Mhm.
And my role there was basically I was what's called a skills development advisor, but my role was to like run 3-day workshops for people for like motivation, goal setting, cold calling, doing your resumes, all of these type of things. So my role was to run that, and the program that like they had that they gave to me to run this 3-day program was like absolutely hot garbage. Like it was just terrible. People hated it. It was boring. The content was just absolute like shit. And so like they would book in like 15 people, right? 15 people would turn up on the first day. The next day, no one would be there, right? So I was like, just because these people are like forced to come here to do this like program doesn't mean it has to be like a really low quality, like terrible
Mhm.
program. So I want to make sure people have like an amazing time and experience when they come here. So I started like wanting to learn um like how to be a great speaker. So I picked up books by like Steve Jobs on like how to present. And then I learned about neuro-linguistic programming,
Mm.
and I really liked that. So I went to do a course in Sydney. And the course was a master practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming and hypnotherapy, as well as timeline
And
therapy.
this
So
is
the three.
all like under the nonprofit. This is the nonprofit.
Yeah, I paid for it myself, actually. I paid for it myself
Oh,
to do the course. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Um,
So, okay,
but
so does that mean that's the moment where you were like, okay, I'm seriously going to share? Like, is that when you decided?
no, in the course, this is just like so in this moment, this is when like the time like when I became an adult where I got activated again into really taking on like the mysterious experiences that I've had over my life, like
Mm.
seriously, like that it's a reality sort of thing. So I was in the course, and the teachers there were also Hawaiian Hunas. So a Hawaiian Huna is like Hawaiian shamanism, right? And they asked anyone like if they'd like to experience Hawaiian shamanism, like, and it's like an energy art as well as like yeah, it's like a form like a energy. They used like a chant, and they used like special symbols that's special to like Huna, and they got me on stage to contact my like ancestors. And then so I went up the stage and they did this thing, and like I like visualized like going and seeing my great 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 grandfather, and like they're like, okay, now what's your grandfather saying to you? And then what came out was like, are you saying piss off? And they're like, oh shit, oh
Yeah.
sorry. Tell them we apologize.
Did you seriously say that there? Like on the stage?
Yeah, like
No
yeah,
way.
like literally that's what came up. Like I had this vision of my grandfather and he's saying piss off. Like my great 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 grandfather.
No,
And he was
man.
like sitting in
Everybody
this
was
like
like, you brought joy to everybody there, I think. It's just that one.
yeah.
That's, yeah.
And then they cast like Got it.
All right,
Okay.
keep
Yeah.
going.
So yeah, so it's like they were chanting like this spell. And um and then they like pushed it. They were on the stage and I was like halfway in the audience and it was a very big auditorium. So I was about like 20 meters away. And I felt this like energy hit my chest and like something inside, like all of this type of energy just lift out of my body.
Mhm.
And then like all of these crazy changes started happening in my life. And then from there, I was like, wow, okay, like there's something about life like that is mysterious.
And was this around 2012, 13, or it was before that?
Yeah, it's about 2012, 13. Yeah.
Bro, that's insane. That's exactly when I had the dream, right? Around that time, I had a dream, and then suddenly, all the sentences and everything began coming after that. Do you
Mm,
know?
mm.
But that's unique because for me, it was kind of like a instantaneous, like from a morning paralysis, instantaneous lift off. You've heard the
Yeah.
story, but I've said it like 100 times. But so you felt new? Is that what it is? Did you feel like you're a new being?
No, I just felt different. Like I felt like I was like I felt like something has changed about me, like energetically,
Okay.
right? And then from there, like all of these like weird things started happening. And I remember walking through like our town in Brisbane. There was like a sign, it's called West End, this little suburb, and it's like very like hippie-ish. And I was like walking past there, and I seen like a flyer or like a poster of a order called the like Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Ah, so this is where you see it for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, so the
And
Hermetic
this is
Order of the Golden Dawn.
2012, 13 still?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah,
Okay.
and so I go online. I emailed the email because they didn't really have a website. They just go like this email to contact. So I contacted him. Um, and so the chief of that order was Ralph Muhlenberger. And we had a chat, we had a talk about my experiences. And he's like, yeah, cool. You should come and join and come and check us out and see what we do. And from there, I got initiated. I went to a couple of their like lectures and stuff. It was really interesting stuff. So, and then they asked if I wanted to be initiated into the order. So I got initiated into the order, and I think got up to like four or
So
five, yeah,
so
grades.
sorry, man, can I ask you something about this?
Hmm.
So you saw the sign and then you had a feeling to like respond to them. And
Yeah,
then did the guy sit you down and be like, yo, do you understand this is like it was it a secret thing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like was it like these esoteric like underground thing?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like an underground esoteric order. Yeah,
Okay, and okay.
yeah.
And that's so casual, man. That's so chill. You just saw you just saw like an ad and then it's like you went and when you got initiated, is that something you can talk about or can't talk about?
Yeah, so initiation, you go through and you like, I won't give the specifics, but there's a lot of content on, like, there's a lot of people that write about it. But the people that started, um, who created the Golden Dawn were originally like Freemasons, but then they were also like really talented poets and artists
Mhm.
and writers of their time. So like Rider Waite, uh, I think it's like Will Westcott something. Alistair Crowley, who's very well known, was part of
Mhm.
um, the order for a short time. But it's got quite a long lineage, and there's lineages in England, like in UK, and also in New Zealand.
Right.
And so they crafted this art. So inside, like in an initiation, you have to learn a bunch of esoteric. You have to learn a lot of these esoteric concepts, and practices. And it's made up of so Western magic, like, or magical ways of esoteric knowledge, wisdom. So,
Okay.
and it's a mix of East and West. Um, and then there's also involves like the initiation rituals involve ceremonial magic,
Oh, okay.
where you're going into like, so you go in sort of like into these trance like states, and each person the in the initiation represents particular types of different energies, and they'll channel those energies. And by going through the whole process of the initiation,
Mhm.
you're actually like embedding the soul with um, particular concepts that
Mhm.
will start manifesting in the future, like later date. And a lot of these like changes and stuff can happen. And this is where I really started like learning a lot about different meditation practices, um, and esoteric knowledge. And then I really was like super fascinated. So, but that so with Hermetic style, it's a little bit of a mix of Eastern meditation practices, um, Western esoteric philosophical thinking, and then also Jewish, like Kabbalah as well as like
So
astrology,
was there
Judaism.
geometrical evocation? Like were
Yes,
they using
so there's like you learn about geomancy. Um, there is like,
See, I've never heard of
yeah,
that.
geomancy. Yeah, it's pretty interesting topic.
Okay. Crazy. Okay.
Um, I didn't really get too much involved with geomancy, and I've quite forgotten a lot about, like, it's got to do with particular types of um like energy and patterns that, like, it's the interplay between you and the earth, and how these particular patterns will play out like on the landscape that you interact with.
Okay.
um
So how long were you involved in this? Was it years? Was it like a decade?
yeah, it's about 8 years I was involved.
Oh wow. Man, I'm
um
starting to see a pattern. Do you know you're like in like recruiting movements? Do you know what I'm saying? You know, it's like starting from Christianity. Anyways, keep going, man.
yeah, yeah. And then so 2020 is when I stopped with them.
Mhm.
And I was really getting into Taoism, but like everything, there's like an exoteric. So the exoteric is like the outer shell
Mhm.
of a body of work, sort of thing. And then you've got the esoteric stuff, which is like, like these
Essence.
course mystical teachings, right? And so I really started like, I really liked learning about all of these mystical teachings, from a lot of different cultures. And so I just went on this like great journey in 2020. I was like, because like previously I had this weird dream, like about 2015. And this dream was like, I was standing on top of this building, and I was looking out on the horizon, and there was like an ocean and stuff like past the land. And I was like looking out on this landscape in the city.
So the building was beyond the clouds? It was that high?
No, it was like underneath the clouds, but it was quite high. So it'd be about like a 10-story building, just
Oh,
something
okay.
like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like standing on this 10-story building. And let's just say that that was the highest building in the landscape. And I was looking out across this like city, and then there was this ocean there. And then I looked up in the sky, and like the sky turned into like just this one giant crow, and then it's turned into thousands of crows, and then behind that was a giant like kitten's face, like looking down, like this orange kitten. And then when I look back to the landscape, right, the whole earth was split in two, right? And everything was about to be destroyed. And then there was this daughter and this mother, and they grabbed my hand and then teleported me into this cave where there was like all these other people in this cave there, but it was like this safe place.
Wow. You know, I've
And yeah,
sorry, go on.
no, go ahead, please.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, like, to be honest, bro, like the thought came and left. Keep going, man.
Okay, yeah,
I think you should talk. Yeah, keep going.
yeah. And so in 2020, like because for me, I realized that like these sort of dreams, um, the world, it's like like an energy, but also like things will play out. And so in 2020, I was like really like, I don't know, something was taken over me, and like I could not stop like practicing and researching and like really delving into like different spiritual systems. And I got into like the Norse system, and I started learning about Odin and Freya and all these things. And you learn about like their different symbology, like so. And that was really really crazy, because like what that meant, what the dream started, what it, like because then the dream came back into my mind after I started learning about Odin and Freya. And what the dream was saying was like, so Odin's symbols is the crow and Freya's is the cat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Odin
And
the Crow.
yeah, and then the world like going crazy was like COVID. COVID happened in like 2020.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You
And
know,
then the mother, yeah,
sorry, man. Go on.
yeah,
Go on.
and then the mother and the daughter was like my best friend, and her mother was like helping me overcome some like challenges.
Wow. You know, the thing I wanted to say was that
Yeah,
I've heard like some people who, entertain past lives that
yeah,
they say sometimes when you dream, it's like the guy's past life or something that like it's from your universal self, for example, not like your
yeah,
human self, right? But so I want to bring this towards imagination. Are you done with is there more
yeah.
to that?
No, no, I'm done.
Okay, okay.
Go
So
then.
so do you know what I'm trying to figure out? I'm trying to figure out in all these experiences you have, right? What is so do you have a sense of like the outer realms, inner realms, like how I talk about it in the talks, or do you like do you know what I'm saying? Is there a way
Yeah,
you feel you're experiencing something that nobody else is that you can share?
yeah. So what I feel I'm experiencing, because like for me, a lot of the esoteric and occult teachings tell quite, they kind of teach how to like see the world in a like particular fashion, right? And it's all based on like energy and symbolism. And so like how I interpret the data that I receive from the world is mainly through like um through symbolism, and different types of like energy, and that the world is like alive, and especially like the stars in the sky as well, like can, you can like they have an influence like on reality, and it's like reality is not real in a sense, but it definitely is real as well at the same time. So it's like the dream world and the real world are like overlaid and overlapping and intertwining.
Right. Have you noticed your imagination change since you were a kid till now? Is it for, I'll give you an example. Like for me, when I was young, I could visualize like letters, but there wasn't that much going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I could visualize letters on a wall, right? But then at some point, like even listening or just it turned into a film at some point for me, right? Where at first I was like paying attention to like sentence structure. When somebody would speak, I would see the words. Now when somebody speaks, I just see the image, like it becomes a film, you know? So that
Mm.
was something that changed. It wasn't always like that. So that's kind of what I'm asking you. Did something change out of how your experience of mind is?
Yeah. Um,
Or it could be that
per
like for you from the beginning it was like real. Do you know what I'm saying? Your imagination might be like from the beginning it was there, you know? Maybe like some people are like that. My twin brother was like that, right? Since a young age, his imagination was like active, right? And then
yeah,
for
I always had a very
me,
vivid I
mhm.
always had a very vivid imagination. Um,
Do you know what I'm saying? So for example, he's someone who he sees auras, right? So he sees
mhm.
like an aura or he sees like beings or something. For me, I don't see like that with the eyes, like around the person. For me, I get a feeling. Like I get a feeling, okay, there's a presence here. Okay, or there's something happening. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah, anyways.
I'll give you a really cool story. So like I
Yeah, yeah.
think when I went to go learn my um so the period where I went to go learn music at university, I before that I was doing a lot of like my own little self rituals, right? But like doing rituals to connect with different deities, right?
Mhm,
And so like every single month I would dedicate it to a different deity to learn about their energy, their symbolism, like how they show up in reality and that type of stuff. um and so I had this audition and I was so nervous for this audition, and it was a full moon and I did a full moon um ritual ceremony, little ceremony and ritual, um and like an offering to the goddess Freya, right?
mhm.
And so I went and I did the audition, and it was a very like strange day because like I seen like Fijian writing, like, and I never see Fijian writing anywhere. And it was like on the building in chalk. Like it's not normal. Like it's rare to see Fijian writing in Australia. Like, but it was
Right.
there. It was on the chalkboard, like outside on the wall. And then I get inside, and it was room 13. I did the interview, I did the audition. It was very good. They liked it. And I caught the bus back home. And then I just felt like I wanted to get a coffee. So I went to this like coffee shop that I've never been to that was near my house. And the girl that served me, very beautiful girl, her name was Freya.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, good. That's a great sign. Like I'm gonna get
That's
this
not a common
place.
name, actually. You know, that's the weird thing. I haven't.
Yeah.
So synchronicity, is that what you're saying? So it's like all of this feels like it's a rhythm, like it's already as if you already know where it's going intuitively.
Um, I think it's like because there's like active and passive modes, I think. Like one is when you're trying to like learn about different energies and different symbolisms in life, and they show up like when you're building the energy, a lot of synchronistic things can happen. In regards, it's like you're manifesting that into real life, into reality. And people that are unconscious and unaware, they can be inhabited by these energies, and they play roles of NPCs like in your virtual world.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you've seen Vikings. Have you seen the show Vikings?
Yeah.
That scene where the lady's saving the kids from like the water or something, and then looks up and sees the guy is like a god or something.
Mm.
You,
Yeah, it's
you
like
know,
that.
I've heard like in for example, like Ramana Maharshi, he sat down by a tree, woke up, and a bunch of people were around him, and they introduced themselves as the gods of the different heavens. Do you know, as if
Yes,
at any time come in within somebody else and just communicate to another person,
that's it,
you
dude.
know?
That's and so like reading in about Fijian law, that's like how they also viewed divinities as well, was they would show up as people, like into your reality, like people that aren't commonly there. That like they'd show up unordinarily.
Let me tell you something bizarre that happened when I started giving the talks. It was like the year after, like it was the second year, right? 2015. I was with my brother, and this is in one evening, granted we were like smoking and whatnot. He just for a moment, it's like he's being himself. Then for a second, it's as if it was as if like it was another person, it was something else. And he looks at me and he says, the simulation is complete, right? And see, this is my twin brother. I know him from the beginning of
Yes.
my life, right? But that wasn't my brother in that moment. Do you know what I'm saying? It was as if
Yeah.
for a second I felt something and my brother didn't remember it. You know what I'm saying? It was as if it didn't affect him at all. It was
Yes.
something for my eyes only. That's what I'm trying to.
Yes.
Some things
That
are go on, go on.
yes, it's like that. It's exactly like that. Like they can speak to you through the body of like other people. They can show up on a place. Like it's
All right.
like it's like it's like no one else will be aware. Like it's only for you and your story.
It for me this was like, don't think this is like, this was a rare experience, right? But being
Yeah.
a twin, I was privileged to see the karma of my twin brother. Do you know what
Mm,
I'm saying? And he
mm,
was privileged to see my karma as a
yeah.
being, right? So I
Yeah.
that means wherever we would go as kids, right? I would see like what would happen to him when he would express himself, right? And he
Yeah.
would see what would happen to me. So there were times where like so in Iran, we went to when we were young, we went to this there's these shrines, okay? So it's a Sunni Islamic context. So they have
Mm,
shrines of like the different important people, like the different imams and whatnot, right? So there's this popular shrine. Everybody goes there to give their prayers, but it's also like a vacation spot too. Do you know? So
yeah.
so what was the place called? Mashhad. It was called Imam Reza's tomb. Okay,
Mm.
shrine. Imam Reza's shrine. So, anyways, we go there and we start like, what do you call it? Like cleansing ourselves for the prayer, right? And this random lady comes up to my brother midway cleaning, and he says to my brother, "You're doing it wrong, sir. You got to do it right." Do you know? While he's washing his hands. And my brother, I'll never forget, he turns around, he just slowly looks at the woman and says, "Okay." And then she leaves. Okay. She leaves after that. Now, my brother, he got irritated. He's like, "What is this?" Now, I'll just pause the story there. Another time we went to, when we were 14, we went to Mecca. You know what Mecca is, right?
Hmm.
And when we were there was a lot of locusts, like grasshoppers, on that building, on the black building, right? And
Yeah.
and my brother, we were there, and a grasshopper hits his head and he starts crying, you know? And my father's like, and everybody's like, "Yo, that's a blessing. That's something, it's like, like trying to cheer him up, right?"
Yeah.
He didn't see what I saw, that out of nowhere, something in this life came and acknowledged you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
I was seeing how it was something else that was interacting with him. But for him, his ego was like, "Yo, I don't like this. What the fuck?" You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You But I could see
Yeah.
it then, right? And I noticed that there is something, I don't know, man. I mean, like my view on magic is a bit, I think, different than yours,
Mm.
right? Ultimately, because to me, divinity is way more real than magic. And in certain divine texts, they say that if you have a power, right, if you egotistically use it, right, there's consequences, you know?
Yeah.
But if you're selfless, that means, here's the trick. That means there's no one using it. That means it's not your power. Do you know what I'm saying? When you're selfless, it just happens. Do you know? It comes
Yeah. It
out
just
of necessity.
happens. It's like, yeah, you don't, it's like you're not, conscious. It's just like a byproduct, I guess, of like, I don't know if it's goodness or something. I don't know what it is, but like these
Mhm.
magical things just like sort of
You,
happen as a byproduct of your cultivation, I guess.
right. You know, now I'll ask you a very interesting question.
Okay.
In your experience so far, if somebody asks you this world, is it physical or is it non-physical? Or what is it to you? That means
It's both.
I'm asking you like as like a as if we're human beings stranded on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, yo, what if you go on?
I feel it's a both. It's both because like there's there's like, we've got our logical brain, our left and right
Mhm,
side of the brain. One side is like seeing this world like as a physical thing. Like, when I was there was like those years when I was growing up where I was just fully involved in the mundane. I was just like, no, you go to work and get the money, and then you get the girl, and then you get the house, and you get the kids, and
mhm.
that's all there is to life. Like
Yeah.
nothing else. All the other stuff is like just bullshit, right? But
Mhm.
then like these experiences keep knocking at my door, and it's like it's not like I want. It's like why do I need to keep fucking seeing these, like, experiencing these things and seeing these things? But they keep knocking at your door until you acknowledge it. Like, and it's not like I want to be someone special. I don't want to be like, you know, I don't want to be anything with it. All these things. It's like, I guess it's just like the role that I have to play, you know?
You know, I
And
would go on.
go, no, I forgot what I
I
was going
didn't
to
mean
say.
to cut you off, bro. Keep going, man.
Oh, no, I was done. I'm done.
Okay. So do you know, okay, so if you, for example, if you asked me, all right, do I think reality is physical?
Mm.
I have this view that it like I literally reached a point where spirituality became like an unknown air.
Mm.
You know, like you type in something wrong in the computer and it says unknown, like error, like 404, right? So I
Yeah,
reached a point where I realized there's so many different viewpoints to look at things. There's so many different ideas, but I'm watching it change. So I'm right now, I wouldn't say the world is physical because I'm watching it change. Something's watching it change. I wouldn't say it's subjective because I've also been noticing the subjects come and go, right?
yeah,
To me, I'm left it being unknown. And I think I'm more inclined towards it being inconceivable. That means it's not human, right? So that means this might sound bizarre, but even though we're humans on a rock and everything's like centered around us and our divinity and whatnot, but I have this view that it's actually dehumanized. That means it's not like the human being. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the human being is like one leaf on the tree.
yeah,
The
yeah,
tree is not the leaf. You know,
yeah,
something in those lines, right? And there was a time where like the Mr. Within talks, right? My father came to me, man, and one day he said, "It's like you're hired by a transcendental company." Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Was saying as if like you're working for like it seems like you're doing something that's like for some like something invisible. Do you know?
yeah.
And
I like that. That's actually a good take.
yeah,
I
but
think that's really cool.
right,
Yeah,
but I had that view, but my own intuition in I don't know when it was. At some point it told me don't get attached to shape.
yeah,
Don't get attached to what you see because like even though in the talks I don't talk about it much, I did have spiritual experiences, bro. Like
yeah,
spiritual experiences of like, one day I came from the gym and I saw a glowing being in my living room. I was
yeah,
the only one home and I just sat down and tears just endlessly came from my eyes and I just sat there, do you know? And in that moment, the archetype that came to my mind was like Archangel Gabriel, do you know? Jebrail,
oh
So
man, that's cool.
yeah, so I saw, and it was in the form of a little girl. It was like,
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? It's like I walked into the house and I felt something's watching me, but it was just glowing, like white glowing and no human features, but the outline. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The outline of
Yeah.
the body and glowing. And that was a very profound moment. It's like literally everything stopped. I sat down and it was just, I felt some sort of bliss, right? But something you got to also know, ever since I was 7, I've been like saying prayers. Do you
Mm.
know? Like it, do you know, like I was scared of the dark, and my mother said, say God's name 7 times. And that became like a habit for me, where
Yeah.
every night I was saying it, right? To a point where I notice even in dangerous situations, my mind, it's like automatically I start saying it. Do you
Like
know
a
what?
mantra.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was like it was, some people may look at it and be like, yo, weird ritual, but it was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like fulfilling the moment at the time, you know?
Yeah. You know what's really cool is like you just mentioning like Archangel Jibril is very synchronistic because the last couple of days um I've been looking into there's this star at the moment. So the star's called Fomalhaut. And Fomalhaut is in ancient Persia, they called it one of the four stars. And this star represents Archangel Gabriel. And it's found like in Pisces. And today it's conjunct with the sun. So it's
Oh
energy.
my God.
Yeah. And so I've been looking, like researching and looking it up, like, how's this energy going to play out? It seems like a very important
Right, right.
energy. Yeah.
See,
And
that's what I think the thing I appreciate, I think that it's something that you've cultivated, is that you care for the awareness of like the celestial, or like
mm,
the cosmic picture being involved in, like, you know what I'm saying? People wake up not thinking about nature. They're just
mm,
like, I'm gonna go do this, do this, do this, and then go to sleep. Do you know?
mm,
And it's as if for you, I feel like there was a time I felt like I've come to meet the world like an ancient friend. I don't know if you've ever had that vibe, right? Like the planet's like this. I feel like I've come to meet a friend. I'm not the
yeah.
planet, but I'm there with it. You know, I don't know, man. Stuff like this.
I know. I feel that. I feel that. One time I was on, like my friend, he's like this pretty big hippie, and he invited me like on this special day. I think it's like on October. It's the start of like, um, it was like, it was like new moon in Libra or something, but it's like the start of eclipse season. So it was like a full moon eclipse, new moon eclipse.
Right.
And what happened was he invited me to do like some shaman journeying with like LSD on psychedelics.
Wow. Okay.
And so we went there and we got on the psychedelics and we started playing, like he had this great sound system, and he started playing this like like really crazy music. And we were like both of us would choose different musics to play. So
Mm.
he'd play this like really great like transcendental like music, but it's been made by like, hip hop artists or like other type of artists. And I would play like, esoteric mantras from like secluded Tibetan monks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And and like, oh man, and like all the different energy like was so intense. And then like it was like at nighttime and I went outside and it was a full moon in Taurus. It was a full moon in Taurus. And I went outside and it's like the moon started talking to me.
mm.
And oh my God, I can still feel in my bones now that experience, because there was like this energy. It's like the moon had all these like tentacles, and like I was having a conversation, and in
What
the
a crazy
conversation
image.
with her, like it's very feminine like energy with her, she was like, it's so good to see you again, like you don't come here often. But it felt like I came from another star system and I'm here. Like I've come from like a faraway star system to be here. And like I was interacting with the moon as if she was an old friend and an old lover of mine from millions of years. And
Yeah,
then I
that,
just
that
uh,
divine familiarity.
yeah, and then I just imagine, and then like it's like something took over, and like this whole image of, it's like my DNA was being transformed with like this blissful karma that would unravel over the next course of my life. It was like a blessing
Mhm.
from the moon, and it was like, um 1,000 blessings of like purifying my karma, like, but and like imbuing bliss into my DNA, but like purifying me at the same time, like my mortal DNA. It was strange. It was a strange experience.
Let me share something that you might not know about
Mm.
like how, see, I'll be honest. Since childhood, I like the idea of like mages controlling the elements, like the five elements, like airbender, like something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that shit
Love
was
that.
so cool to me. Like,
Yeah.
somebody could raise his hand and the pond shapes like the shape of his hand or something. Like
Yeah.
that was interesting. But I never had, I would see it in others that I never had a desire for a ritual. Okay, the way I would say the divine experience came to me was actually not a ritual. It was more like
Mm.
I was preferenceless, and somebody was like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, and I was like, "What's up?" It was a dialogue. It wasn't some weird ritual. I had a cousin. I have a cousin. He's I think like 5 years older than me, and he was under the
Yeah.
impression that he was Gurdjieff in his past life. Okay,
Yeah.
so so I remember him when he was like, he knows that I've been like giving the talks and whatnot. One day he comes to this, I'm living in Toronto. He has two of his friends from Germany. He's had it like from Germany. I forget their names, Stefan and like somebody else, Habib, right? So these three guys, they come here and they've gotten introduced into a Sufi type of spiritual initiation or something. And they've seen me give these talks and they came and asked me, like, okay, how do you see this and all of this? And I was trying to explain to them that it's like, this is my honest opinion, man. Sometimes these esoteric societies or even rituals and Brahmanism and whatnot, to me, it's a bit childish as a soul,
Mm.
not as a human being. As a human being, okay, it's an intense act. But as a soul, I was like, I never understood. I felt like they were trying to play with something rather than like, imagine somebody standing in front of you, right? And instead of you being like, "Hey, what's up?" You're like dancing and doing weird rituals in front of them, and they're like, "Yo, I'm right here. Just talk." You know what I'm saying? Right. So
Yeah.
that's the thing, that it's an ego. The ritual is an ego. So the ego feels like it's getting something. But in actuality, it's a very honest dialogue with the world soul or logos or whatever you call it. So for me, and it wasn't something where like after that dream, it started with me noticing my thoughts were moving faster than I think, right? So I
Yeah.
was I was literally sitting and I'm like, yo, what is this? I don't think at this speed, but I was watching it. I could notice it. Right. And then I
Yeah.
would go in the yard and I would do yard work and lines of poetry would come and I'm like sweating in a sunny day, but also crying. What I'm saying, tears are coming. But my
Yeah.
nostrils, that was the weird thing. My nostrils were, it wasn't like it crying where your nose kind of gets, you know, blocked or whatnot. Do you know what I'm saying? It was weird tears. It wasn't tears of sadness. It was tears of release. I was
Yeah.
experiencing something that I hadn't before, you know?
Yeah.
But then over time, man, it went to a round circle and I realized it's just the moment, the whole moment.
Mm.
So this is why at this point, and of course I told you it came to the unknown. So at this point, I'm like, okay, it's too unknown, right? For my little human mind to understand. And I was like, okay, I didn't create this world. So if there's an idea of something else out there, you show me. And bro, ever since that, all this, like, again, you said something incredible. You said suddenly you activate, right? Your
Mm.
imagination or your mind activated. Again, this was like for me something like that, where now I'm kind of just watching what the world does as I'm there. Not just, it was before I wanted to, like, do you know what I'm saying? Before it was like something I wanted to, believe it or not, like an egoic taking vibe, right? But now
Mm.
it's kind of like, okay, we're just here. Let's watch what happens, you know. So that was what the thing where I went to the unknown. So now when
Yeah, I think that's like a
oh yeah,
quality of like learning patience. Like it's like the virtue of patience though. So
Like
it's
to
like,
be human is like the most advanced spiritual practice. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
anyway,
because like I feel like how do you, it's like for me, it's like with all the restrictions that I have, how do I still be content and boundless and free? You know,
right.
so like at the moment I got like these all these physical ailments, but like why should that stop me from being content, from like accessing a feeling of connectedness and freedom? Like, because for ages I thought like you get into this humdrum of like, I need money to feel like any good feelings. If I don't have money, I have to feel like a piece of shit. But then like over the last couple of years, I'm like, that's not true at all. Like,
Mhm.
nature provides everything. Just have patience and then like work things out slowly. And I think like my imagination has been taken up by like doing like feng shui sort of stuff. Like,
Mhm.
uh, so like I kind of imagine
Noticing
that like,
energy more.
so like having certain symbols and
Mhm.
what they represent, right? So I imagine that my space is like a little universe, right? And so like the timing and everything that I was born, right, like gives me these certain like different types of energy, and as that energy moves with the energy of like the the heavens and the seasons and stuff like that, like you need different energies to like interact and interplay so that you can be like not successful, but like you can live good healthy life, basically, right? And so like for me, I feel it's like it's very important to set up like different symbols for guardians in each direction of
Mhm.
my and each four corners, and so I will align them with the actual like compass. So like like true north, east, west, and south. I'll put like little guardian symbols there, and then like they represent a particular type of energy inside of my little microcosm. So like I'm the microcosm
Mhm.
inside the macrocosmic universe, and then I'll also like add other particular energies as well to supplement that. And then it's like really weird. Like I unconsciously like start choosing better like options, healthier options, like better options with my friendships, or like more new like good opportunities come in by doing this stuff. And I don't know if it's like if that's happening just because like my intention is for that to happen in my like little environment, like, or if like I'm just here to observe and witness like the story of this thing play out. But yeah, like my imaginations like is like how do I become more in harmony like with the world without forcing any forcing any particular like conscious narratives onto the world. So if I look at like the world and like how I'm functioning and playing out as if it's like um uh one of those like those pane glass windows, like the beautifully colored windows you might see in like mosques or churches or something
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, I've
you
seen
know and it's like, and that light casts a beautiful like picture and shadow on the wall. Well, it's like how do I put things in my environment so that like I'm in harmony, you know with that little movie, and I just get to observe it, sort of thing.
it. Man, something I want to ask you. This is, I don't know why, but throughout the years of like talking to you, I have this impression that you've understood something about inner peace,
Mm.
something about peace, right? And I don't know if you can share it now, but if you were to, like, did you have a profound realization about peace?
Mm. Well,
Something, something in those lines?
yeah. I've been thinking a lot about it, and because I feel like uh peace and contentment um is, I guess, like something I naturally work towards. Doesn't matter what situation I've been in life. Like I've been in situations where I had lots of money, had a good life. Um, and I think it's like all about, like the old saying is really having a high awareness of yourself,
Mhm.
and um doing thing like taking control of your environment, but not, how do I put it? It's like satisfying unconscious needs, like the ability to satisfy unconscious needs that you have. Um, and having, I don't know, I just got this like inner in a sense of like this faith of knowing that like everything's always going to be okay.
Right, right. It's like an instantaneous knowing. Is that what you mean? Like it's
Yeah,
just,
I just know everything's going to work out.
nice, man. Nice. You know,
Um,
I hope I could say the same thing for the species, in the future. But so right now, how do you see it? Do you acknowledge the divine when you wake up? Do you have moments of like, trying to connect to a higher power? Do you acknowledge a higher power? And
no,
are the
at the
do you see,
moment,
do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
is it yeah, I'm talking too much.
Yeah, no, no. So like for me, I feel like I'm the avatar, like of, like I'm one aspect of an avatar, like on the planet, and like even the things that like at the end of the day, like we can think we know what we're here to do, and we can like, you know, soldier on and try and achieve that. But
Mhm.
like I think it's like in all the little inconsequential moments where like the really special things happen. Like, and those are things like you never think that like would have the
Right.
biggest
When
impact.
when you're not, you mean like when you're not noticing it, it suddenly happens? Or when you're not looking for it, it happens? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, or like it's in it's like it's in all the small moments like that you can have a huge impact on someone's life,
Right.
I guess. But in terms of like the divine stuff, um I look at the divine thing as a reciprocal relationship. Like you do something for me and I'll do something for you. Is how it works for me.
Yeah.
That, because like for me that's a law that's in the world. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and it has to be of equal exchange. Like you do something on me, like I'll do something for you, because like they like the divine
Mhm.
plays their part through our hands, is
Right.
how I see it. Like they play their part through our hands, through
We're
our
we're the chess
voice.
pieces on the chessboard, right? And then the
Yep.
chess masters are like, yo, you can move a square today.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, hey, if I'm gonna do some work for you, then like, you know, do something for me. Like give me some inner knowing, you know, like, or give me some truth source. Put me in touch with someone dope, you know, or like, yeah, just like you just, it's a reciprocal relationship. It's
I
not
want,
like, yeah, otherwise it's slavery. I'm not a fucking slave.
bro, you know what's sad?
Yeah.
This slavery thing you say,
Yeah.
this was something that in all those people, when the outer guru, do you know what I'm saying? It's like
Mm,
I there was I don't know how to say it, but it's like, so I was in Iran and these guys come claiming they're like masters, And I was like, if you get attached to something, like if you think your master is out, it's like you're attaching yourself to somebody you don't know. That's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to say, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, man, maybe a lot of this is just intuitive, maybe there is no reason. It's just happening.
yeah.
Like the
But
body, right? The
well,
heart is beating it. Like I'm not thinking about it. There's no inner realm, outer realm involvement. It's just happening, right?
yeah, yeah. Because that's another like one of the beliefs that I hold is like our body is actually divine. It's made up of the
Mhm.
universe. Like it's crazy. Like, um,
Right, right. But we
you know,
don't experience it like that, right? That's the bizarre thing, right? So it's like we're being part of the universe, right? But we're not getting to experience the whole universe, right? Or like some
yeah,
people think of like, okay, think of a responsibility level of a being that like is responsible for everything in existence, and then the responsibility of the human being, who just has to wake up early.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. Because like in ancient systems, especially ancient divination systems, they're like the body is actually divine. It is the instrument of the divine. And when you tap in, like when you're doing the divination, it's actually the divine playing out through you. And like your body is actually the instrument with which the divine displays itself. Um,
Mhm. Yeah. Let me
but I
ask
think,
you
yeah,
this. Let me
yeah.
ask you this. Do you think being human right now, like the way we're human right now, do you think this is a phase? Do you think in the future, like the natural human being still gonna be like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you see the future? Do you see the future being like we're creatures of mind, like a collective mind, or are we still individuals, or are we cyborgs? Like, is being in
Um,
a phase and then nature has like some other agenda? Like, how do you see?
I
Or
think
what's your
in the
feeling of the future?
future, I think we're going to go into the future where I feel a lot more people are going to be inclined to be more holistic about the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Um, and because the mind, like living as just like a fucking mind is like such a basic bitch way to like live life because we've got so many other faculties
Mhm.
that are just as powerful as the mind. But
Yeah,
we
balance.
like yeah, like so like in the Western thing, it's like it's all about the intellect and
Mhm.
like scheming and like how you can like have an advantage over others. But in the long run, that's not very. It's like it's not an effective way to like be
Yeah,
in the
it
world.
it's like they've convinced the non-physical being that everything is physical and it's
Mm.
suffering because it can't notice like some stuff is non-physical, you know? I
Yeah,
feel sometimes like
I
that.
agree with that. I agree with that. But I think more and more we're going to move towards like really acknowledging like we need to look after our ecosystem.
Mhm.
And then I think people like I think work will slow down as well. This
Yeah.
might not be for another couple of 100 years,
Mhm.
but um I think work will slow down. We'll go into a different cycle where it's not all about like pushing past your limits and boundaries because like there's definitely limits and boundaries that we're pushing past that shouldn't be pushed past, I guess.
Okay, a question I ask is like a final question.
Mm.
If you were to give a message to the future generations of people, different people going through, let's say, spirituality, different experiences, like what would you tell them if you could send a message in a bottle?
When nothing is done, nothing is left undone.
Okay, that's heavy. Um, can you explain that to me?
I think you have to contemplate. That's something you have to contemplate yourself.
Say it again. Say it. Can you say it
That's something you have to contemplate.
again? Bro, I'm gonna be literally like, no, no, I think I get it.
Yeah.
But maybe I
So,
might I might
well,
not get it. The future generations will get it.
okay. So, well, when nothing is done, so like when you're in a bad situation, or when even when you're in a good situation, um, and you don't know how to solve it,
Hmm.
just don't do anything. Like don't try to solve it. Just be and uh and focus on like good thing good
Ah,
good practices to do, like look after your health first, you
mhm.
know, create a safe loving environment, focus on the immediate things that you can do to feel healthy, and forget about what you think you know, and just let things play out themselves. Watch.
Incredible, man. You know, I've been feeling that when I ask you a question and I silently watch. You know, it just happens, you know.
Yeah.
But but bro, that's great. You know, I totally understand that. So awesome, man. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Thank you so much for having
Incredible.
me, man.
And
Yeah.
I learned a lot actually. Thanks for sharing, bro.
No, it's really good. I really appreciate like your questions. You always have like wonderful stories to tell. You have like really insightful questions too. So it's my pleasure.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
You know, it's the speaker, you know, the speaker brings out the questions. So it's from the content. Yeah, man. All right, bro. So epic. We can end it off and go on Discord or chill or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, cool.